In the next 24 years, from 2026 to 2050, humanity will witness the greatest demographic shift in history. While USA remains stable, China faces collapse, and India surges ahead. This isn't just about numbers, it's about global power, economic dominance, and the future of world politics. India is experiencing an unprecedented population boom. By 2050, India will surpass 1.7 billion people, becoming the world's undisputed population giant. With a median age of just 27, India will have 400 million young, productive workers entering the workforce. This is the world's largest young population ever recorded. Meanwhile, China faces an existential crisis. The one-child policy has created demographic disaster. By 2050, China's population will shrink to just 1.2 billion, a loss of 200 million people. Worse, 40% of China's population will be over 60 years old. For every young worker, there will be almost one elderly retiree to support. The United States maintains remarkable demographic stability. With steady immigration, America's population will hold at approximately 390 million by 2050. Unlike China, America's immigration policy continuously refreshes its workforce. The median age stays around 39 years, old enough to have experience, young enough to be productive. Here's where population becomes power. India's young workforce will drive unprecedented economic growth. Manufacturing will shift from China to India. Consumer markets will explode. By 2050, India's GDP could rival or exceed China's. Meanwhile, China's shrinking workforce means economic slowdown, fewer workers, higher dependency ratios, massive pension obligations. China faces a pension time bomb. With 400 million elderly by 2050 and a shrinking tax base, pension systems will collapse. Healthcare costs will bankrupt regional governments. China will spend 15 to 20% of GDP just on elderly care, draining resources from defense, infrastructure, and innovation. This weakens China's global competitiveness. India enters 2026 to 2050 with their demographic dividend, the sweet spot where working-age population far exceeds dependence. This 20-year window is critical. India can build massive infrastructure, expand manufacturing, and create wealth. If India invests in education and jobs, this boom is unstoppable. India could add 300 million new workers to the global labor force. This demographic shift reshapes global power. A young, growing India becomes the new economic engine of Asia. China's military capabilities face workforce decline, fewer soldiers, fewer scientists, fewer builders. The USA, stable but aging, increasingly depends on immigration and alliances. India moves from third world status to superpower trajectory. The USA's secret weapon. Immigration. While Europe and China restrict migration, America attracts global talent. The world's best minds come to America seeking opportunity. This continuous brain drain fuels American innovation, startup culture, and technological leadership. Without immigration, America would face the same aging crisis as Europe. But India faces massive challenges. Can it create jobs for 400 million new workers? Will education match workforce demands? Can infrastructure keep pace with growth? Pollution, resource scarcity, and political instability threaten the demographic dividend. If India fails to invest now, the population boom becomes a population burden. China attempts a pivot, automation and AI. Robots replace aging workers. Advanced manufacturing replaces labor-intensive factories. Tech innovation compensates for population loss. But automation requires massive capital investment, money China needs for pensions and healthcare. It's a race. Can China automate fast enough before the economic collapse? The ripple effects reshape global trade. India becomes the new factory of the world. China's manufacturing monopoly ends. Global supply chains reorganize. Inflation, energy crises, and resource competition intensify. Developing nations align with rising India. The multipolar world order accelerates, no single superpower dominates anymore. India's population surge means resource hunger. Oil, metals, rare earths, fresh water, competition becomes cutthroat. Nations compete for African resources, Arctic minerals, ocean rights. Environmental pressure accelerates. India can't feed 1.7 billion on sustainable resources alone. Global food prices rise. Climate migration becomes crisis. India's youth surge means explosion in talent. By 2050, India produces more engineers, scientists, and innovators than any nation. Indian diaspora already dominates Silicon Valley and global tech. Imagine when India has 400 million young innovators at home. Tech power shifts from west to east. India becomes the innovation hub competing with USA and China. Militarily, the shift is seismic. China's shrinking workforce means fewer soldiers, recruitment crises, weakening military edge. India, with massive youth population, can build the world's largest standing army. Defense spending increases. Naval capabilities expand. The Indo-Pacific balance of power tips against China. India becomes the region's guarantor of security. Desperate to maintain relevance, China doubles down on Belt and Road Initiative. Investing in developing nations not for charity, but for geopolitical control. China buys influence, ports, minerals. But as China's economy slows, funding dries up. Projects fail. China's debt becomes unpayable. The strategy backfires, China becomes the declining power desperately clinging to influence. The USA recognizes the shift and pivots toward India. Their Quad, USA, India, Japan, Australia, emerges as the new alliance against Chinese expansion. America supports India's rise as a counterbalance to China. This partnership becomes the defining geopolitical axis of the 2030s and 2040s. Together, they reshape Asian balance of power. Population means environmental pressure. India's 1.7 billion people intensify climate impact. Pollution, deforestation, water crisis accelerate. Climate migration forces millions to move. Rising seas displace island nations and coastal cities. China's aging but healing, less pollution as industry declines. USA leads green energy transition. Environmental crisis becomes geopolitical flashpoint. Population growth without inclusive growth means rising inequality. India's boom creates new billionaires but doesn't lift all boats. 400 million new workers flood markets, driving wages down. Urbanization creates megacities with slums. Social tensions rise. Without redistribution and education, India's demographic dividend becomes a demographic curse: instability, conflict, social breakdown. 3 possible futures emerge. Scenario 1, India invests wisely, education and jobs boom, becoming the world's second superpower. Scenario 2, India fails to manage growth, instability and collapse. Scenario 3, the realistic middle, India rises but faces constant challenges, becoming a multipolar power alongside USA and resurgent powers. The next 24 years determine everything. India's window of opportunity is now. These 24 years, 2026 to 2050, are critical. If India invests in education, creates 400 million jobs, builds sustainable infrastructure, and manages growth wisely, India becomes unstoppable. The 21st century could be their Indian century. For the first time in 200 years, the most populous nation becomes the most powerful. China faces a crossroads. Can automation and innovation replace lost workers? Can China transition from factory to innovation powerhouse? Or does China become a declining giant, clinging to past glory? China's choices, investing in education, AI, or doubling down on authoritarianism, determine if it remains relevant or becomes a middle power. America's greatest advantage, stability. While China and India face disruption, America's institutions prove resilient. Immigration sustains workforce and innovation. Political stability attracts capital and talent. By 2050, America remains the innovation and financial leader. But American dominance won't be hegemonic, it'll be first among equals in a multipolar world. By 2050, global power distribution fundamentally changes. Unipolarity ends. the Indo-Pacific becomes the decisive geopolitical theater. India's rise reshapes South Asian, and global politics. China's decline forces strategic adjustment. USA adapts to multipolar reality. Their great power competition is replaced by great power cooperation and competitive coexistence. Survival requires cooperation. Climate change, resource scarcity, and pandemics don't respect borders. USA, India, and China must cooperate despite competition. Climate technology sharing, renewable energy collaboration, and pandemic response require unity. The greatest geopolitical achievement of 2026 to 2050 could be learning to compete peacefully while cooperating on existential threats. The true wild card, the next generation. By 2050, billions of young people from India, millions from USA, and hundreds of millions of young Chinese will shape history. Technology connects them globally. Ideas spread instantly. Their choices, cooperation or conflict, sustainability or exploitation, justice or oppression, determine global destiny. Population isn't just about number. From 2026 to 2050, the population war reshapes our world. India's rise, China's adjustment, America's adaptation, and the emergence of multipolar order define the era. But this isn't a zero-sum game where one wins and others lose. In an interconnected global economy, all nations rise or fall together. The population war is ultimately about managing humanity's greatest resource, people. Which future will we choose? Will India rise responsibly? Will China adapt? Will America lead wisely? The next 24 years matter. Subscribe for more geopolitical analysis. What's your prediction? Comment below. Share your thoughts on how these demographic shifts will reshape our world. The future isn't written, we write it together.